So it's postseason baseball time again around LSU. We had the SEC tournament this past week, and then now LSU has officially gotten into the NCAA tournament. I know before Hoover, there was a lot of people that were pretty confident. There was a lot of people that were stressing. But after what LSU did in the SEC tournament, they absolutely left no doubt that they deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. And they actually played their way into being a two seed in a regional. Originally was going to be projected as a three seed. You end up making it to the SEC championship game of the tournament and had a tremendous week. Hitting, pitching, all of the above, man. Everything was going for the Tigers. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the last victory, losing 4-3 to Tennessee in the championship game. The bats just kind of ran cold there, but they put a good rally there in the ninth inning to score a couple runs and make it interesting. But it's time to focus on the postseason, man. And Jay Johnson coming off of a national championship last year. There's a lot of expectations for this LSU team seems like they're finally hitting their stride. And obviously, we kind of rearrange our expectations throughout the year. As the season goes on, if I would have asked you, 5 weeks ago, what's your expectations for LSU baseball, you would have said, well, I'm just hoping that they can make the SEC tournament, right? We weren't even talking NCAA tournament at one point this year. A team that was 3-12 in the league, and just struggling, man. Just got swept by Tennessee, and it was not looking good. Absolutely, at any point, anybody that tells you that they were feeling confident is just lying. Absolutely lying. This team was not playing well, and it was not pitching well. It was not hitting well. It wasn't fielding well. And obviously, the schedule has a lot to do with that. But you could just tell LSU was not playing their best baseball. And the good news is that LSU ended the regular season winning 4 of their last 5 series, sweeping Ole Miss to get to that 13-win mark. A lot of people thought they were on the bubble. A lot of people thought they were going to make it. You get a tough draw there, and you get Georgia in the first round. And then LSU just came to play in Hoover, man. 43 runs through their first 4 games, 2 against South Carolina. One, you win 11-0 over a team that's a top 4 national seed in Kentucky, a top 7 national seed in Georgia. You win 9-1, and then you take on a South Carolina team who, kind of similar to you, hit that 13-win mark, and you win 2 classic come from behind games, being down 8-0 and then being down 10-8 in the ninth inning. You come back and win both of those games, and then you just ran into a very talented team that just played better than you on that day, which is completely acceptable for this team. Like, you're not going to be better than your opponent sometimes. But I'm a big believer, and Jay Johnson says this a lot. It's not about how the other team plays, it's about how we play. And I thought LSU played well, especially on the pitching department in that Sunday championship game. But like I said before, all eyes have turned to the postseason. And if you haven't heard by now, maybe you got some stuff going on Memorial Day or maybe you're watching this the next day or whatever, trying to get a feel for what the postseason is going to be like. LSU has drawn a 2 seed in the Chapel Hill Regional, hosted by North Carolina, the number 4 overall seed and the ACC champs. Obviously, North Carolina is a tremendous team. Made it to the semifinals of the ACC tournament. Regular season champs. Just a tremendous team all around. We're going to talk about every team in depth, but we're just kind of do a brief rundown of everybody who's in the field. And then LSU's opponent, first game will be at 11 a.m. Central Time on Friday. It will be against the Wofford Terriers from there in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So a relatively close trip for them up to Chapel Hill. And then the last team filling out as the 4 seed is Long Island University, and they win their conference tournament and get into the postseason. So, That being said, obviously, we just said it, man. I'm a big believer in LSU can beat anybody in the country when they play like LSU. And that is a fact. We saw that this past week. That if LSU plays the way that they're capable of playing, they can beat anybody in the country. I don't think that's up for debate. One of the things that is concerning, right? Because just because you had a tremendous week, you've had a tremendous end of the season, like this is still a real issue um, that could pop up in a regional setting, not necessarily in a super regional setting, definitely in an Omaha setting, but in a regional setting where you could play multiple games in a day, possibly 4 to 5 games in a weekend in a 3 to 4 day stretch. That could be cause for concern. Guys, and don't get me wrong when I say this, I believe LSU has the best 1-2 punch of any team in the country. I wouldn't trade Gage Jump and Luke Holman. If you had to give me two other starters in the entire nation, I wouldn't take anybody other than those two. Those two guys put together are tremendous, and they're the biggest reason for LSU's turnaround. Gage Jump has become a star, and he is pitching like the ace that we all thought he could be. Luke Holman has been Mr. Consistent all year long. You know what you're going to get from him, and I like LSU's chances in any matchup against anybody in the first 2 games of a series. Now, where things could turn for a worse is the third, fourth, possibly a fifth game if you end up in a loser's bracket situation. Who is your third guy? That could have been answered in Hoover. Jay Johnson might know. I don't think we all know. Nate Ackenhausen got a start in there. Samuel Dutton started games. Who else started the other side? Javen Coleman started a game against South Carolina. So you have options, right? And I'm not saying by any means that they're bad options. I'm just saying, like, when you don't have like a third starter who's like a prototypical guy who can give you 5 innings, of quality baseball, it could lead to issues. And I don't think it's a secret. I don't think I'm saying anything that LSU fans don't know. But you saw a lot from this week in Hoover that I thought brought a lot of positive momentum towards that issue, if that makes sense. You saw Thatcher Hurd go out there and give you 2 strong innings against South Carolina. Things melted down there in the third inning, but you saw the potential there in 2 innings. You saw Nate Ackenhausen go out there in the SEC championship and just run through the best offense in the country in Tennessee with 6 strikeouts through 3 innings. You saw guys like Dutton come in situations and get you outs. You saw Will Helmers pitch 4 innings in the SEC championship and didn't give up a single run. You got guys like Goodry. You got guys like, obviously, you have a guy like Griffin Herron who can close out games for you. You have guys like Javen Coleman who gave you 2 or 3 innings of good quality baseball. And that's all you can expect from those types of situations. Now, you're going to run into a team like North Carolina who has a set guy and a third starter like that, and it's gonna, we all know the LSU offense is gonna have to carry the day in those types of games. Like, that's part of the reason why they weren't able to win the SEC championship. They pitched really well, believe it or not. You give up the home run there, and it's the 3-run home run that kind of bit you. But other than that one swing of the bat, Tennessee's offense only manufactured 1 run through all the other innings, and that's a tremendous credit to what this LSU bullpen is becoming. Hopefully you can get a guy like Christian Little back. That would be huge for the LSU bullpen to get him back, because he has been one of the guys you can count on down the stretch. That being said, enough about LSU. Let's go ahead and talk about the other teams in this regional, and we're going to start off with Wofford out of the SoCon. Like I said earlier, from Spartanburg, South Carolina, so not too far of a trip there to Chapel Hill. I'm probably 2 hours maybe. Their overall record 41-18, so they get to that 40 win mark. Only 12-8 in the conference, which is very surprising. But this is a team that won 6 straight games in the SoCon tournament to make it into the NCAA tournament. This team was not going to be an at-large team. Obviously, SoCon is usually a one-bid league. It was this year, but a 12-8 conference record. So they struggled a lot. They were tremendous at home, 22-5 at home, 13-12 on the road, and then 6-1 in neutral site games. So they have experience playing neutral site games. They play a very good out-of-conference schedule that include College of Charleston, who was a bubble team, UNC Wilmington, who was in the tournament. They played at Georgia. So they have experience playing the better teams. You know, they play teams like South Carolina, Clemson in this region. I don't know. They might have played North Carolina. I'm not 100% sure on that. But, man, when I was going through this, right, and I'm kind of looking at things. Well, the first thing that caught my eye, right, I started digging through the stats. The first thing that caught my eye, I was like, who the hell is going to be pitching for Wofford, right? And I landed on Zach Cohen. Division I Baseball's pitcher of the week this week, pitched 13 innings in the conference tournament, which is unreal that they let this kid pitch twice in 1 week. But that just shows you how desperate, like, these teams are. You know, it's the conference tournament. Like, you have no other option to win if you want to play in postseason baseball, so you're going to do everything that you can. But Zach Cohen is a sophomore, believe it or not, a younger guy with a 3.55 ERA. He's 9-2 on the season. He has appeared in 16 games, and he has started 16 games. Pitched 104 innings, which is more than double. The next highest is 50 innings pitched, or 71, excuse me. So a real legit ace here. Opponents are batting 240 off of him. You know, but like this is a guy who wins ball games, right? This is a guy who this team counted on to get into the postseason. And there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be pitching the first game against LSU. So LSU will have their to bring their bats, man, because they're not facing a slouch by any means. And Zach Cohen, that's a name to watch out for. As far as somebody else who could potentially start, if he doesn't get the start, the guy we just talked about with 71 2/3 innings pitched, 9 starts on the season, 16 appearances, 4.14 ERA. This team's not going to wow you in the pitching department. A team ERA of 5.75. Not great, and then the team batting average allowed is 2.74, or not 2.74, 274 batting average, so not great there either. But then, you know, me thinking, you know, I saw Zach Cohen was the pitcher of the week this week, so I was like, well, they're obviously a very good pitching team, right? Go look at the stats. All right, maybe not so much. But, boy, you go to the hitting stats, and this is one of the most impressive lineups in the entire country. And I'm not BSing here. Like everybody's going to comment on this and they're going to say, oh, look at the competition they play and all that stuff is handy day. You know, it still takes a lot to hit 340 as a team. Yeah, you heard that right, 340. Any batting average above 300 is really good. Really, really good. And we're talking about 340. I was like, that had to have been number 1 in the nation. Like, 340 is crazy. So I go look it up. They're 3rd in the nation in batting average, man. Virginia is batting 341 as a team, and Austin Peay was batting 359. So they are a tremendous hitting team. I'm going to go through the batting averages of their top 9 guys, right? Their top 9 guys that have played the most. Not necessarily who they're going to roll out there in the lineup because I don't know, injury situations, whatever, right? But I'm just going to list some of these batting averages, and you guys tell me where you find somebody who can't hit. All right, so we're going to go 383, 376, 368, 367, 362, 342, 327, 292, and 291. That's pretty damn good. They don't kill you with the home run ball, right? A lot of base hits. Top 2 guys have 93 hits and 91 hits on the season. To get close to 100 hits in a season in a, 59 game schedule now is pretty wild. So, top 2 hitters, extremely good. Marshall Tool is the guy up top here, hitting 383. Started every single game this season. Obviously, has 93 hits, 15 doubles, 64 RBIs, and has an on base percentage close to 500. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, has 42 stolen bases. Yeah. So they're a little bit of a dynamic offense. I don't know if they're going to kill you with the long ball here. Um, but 340 in any league, I don't care if you're playing against the blind kids in Division 2 baseball. Like 340 for an entire season is pretty good. You're not in a major conference, but you're not in a slouch conference by any means. Um, you know, the Southern Conference is pretty good for you know retrospect to the other mid-major conferences. 340 is crazy. And so, like, the lineup they're going to roll out there, you're going to see some averages, and it's going to pop out on the page. There's no way it doesn't, because they popped out on my page, and I was like, there's no way this is real. And it is, in fact, real. So, LSU, Gauge Jump, going to have their hands full on Friday with this good Wofford team. I think a lot of people underestimate how good this Wofford team is, man. They are always on the bubble. They were on the bubble the last 2 years as an at-large team and lost their conference tournament, didn't end up making it in. But this is a first-year coach, and a team that's obviously playing really good baseball. You go 12-8 in the conference, in the Southern Conference, you're not making the tournament unless you win the tournament, and win the conference tournament. And that's exactly what they did. 6 games in 6 days is not anything to point your nose up to. So that being said, we're gonna move on to the most anticipated matchup, obviously, of the weekend, and the two powerhouse programs, two baseball programs that have been historically elite. North Carolina seems to find their way into super regionals, and Omaha in the early 2000s, in the mid 2000s, man, like, it was like a matchup. LSU played North Carolina a couple times in the College World Series. North Carolina hasn't made it to Omaha in a while, but don't sleep on this North Carolina team. Don't let the past fool you, because this North Carolina team is as good as anyone in the country. A number 4 overall seed, and rightly deserved. Won the ACC over Clemson, Wake Forest, Florida State, all these teams, different host sites like Duke, everybody, like, right? They finished 22-8 in the conference, 32-2 at home this year. So LSU's gonna have their work cut out if they get into the winners bracket game. The guy that everybody's gonna talk about is gonna be Vance Honeycutt, a top 20 pick in the MLB draft this year. A guy you've heard about for a long time at North Carolina as being one of the top players in the country. He's going to lead this offense, but by God, he is not the only one, because you get to Gavin Gollier, and it jumps off the page. 355, and then you Parks Harbor, another guy, just tremendous numbers. 351, 20 home runs. LSU has 2 guys with 20 plus home runs, as well as North Carolina. Vance Honeycutt and Parks Harbor both have 20 and 22 respectively. So that's a North Carolina lineup that is unbelievably good. A team that can pitch it just as much as they can hit it. You have a guy in Jason DeCaro, who, it's always funky with the number 1 seeds in these tournaments. Like, do you pitch your ace against the 4 seed? Personally, I wouldn't. But you saw, obviously, Paul Skeens pitch last year against Tulane. But you have a guy in Jason DeCaro who has 14 starts, a 3.8 ERA, and then you have a guy like Matthew, I don't even know how to say his last name, holy cow, who has 31 appearances. 31 appearances out the bullpen, so a big 1-2 punch there. Batting average against is 255, so that's kind of still up there, a little bit higher than LSU's. A 4.19 ERA as a team. A lot of good guys, man. There's only a couple guys on here with really spiked ERAs here. That's kind of dragging that number down. A lot of guys under a 5 ERA, a lot of guys with a lot of experience. I'm looking at a lot of 20 appearances. It seems like they got a guy here, that started games for them before. They got a guy with 12 starts and a guy with 14 starts, and then the next closest is 9. So they've kind of like rotated that in there. 73 innings for Mr. Jason DeCaro. If I had to guess, that's probably the guy you're going to see. Their game 1, 64 strikeouts to 34 walks, so not crazy impressive there. A 2-to-1 ratio. So it sounds like command could be a problem for him. 232 batting average against. And definitely a guy to keep an eye on. But like I said, man, LSU is going to be who they are based off of how they play, man. I don't think it really matters what North Carolina brings to the table. If this LSU team plays like they played the last week or the last month and a half, it's going to be really hard to beat them. And I'll take Luke Holman and Gage Jump, like I said, over any pitcher on any team in the country, man. And they give you a chance to win every single game they pitch. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be an exciting regional. LSU is paired with the Arizona regional. They're in Tucson, the 13 seed, the Arizona Wildcats. So a chance at a reunion with Coach Jay Johnson and his former ball club. But LSU's got their work cut out for them, man. This is definitely not going to be a walk in the park for them at any stage of this regional. You have a really good Wofford team that you have to open up with, and then obviously North Carolina is one of the best teams in the country, and it's going to take everything that they got to get out of here and hopefully advance to a super regional, and then hopefully advance to Omaha, man, because when this team plays at their best, man, it's hard to beat them, and they could be easily one of the top 8 teams left in the country when it's all said and done. We just got to find out. So I'll be watching like you guys will be at 11 a.m. on Friday, and we'll be here to break it all down, all the results and everything that goes into the regional and how it all plays out. If you guys like the video, man, make sure you guys subscribe and like the video. Drop your comment. Let me know if you guys think LSU's going to make it out, man. It's a tough regional. I'm not going to give a prediction, man. I don't like predicting these types of things, man. Baseball stresses me out. So I'm gonna save that for another day. But I will see you guys next time. I hope you guys enjoyed.